Well, a new documentary is drawing attention to some unsung heroes of the war effort. We lend a hand. The forgotten story of Ontario's Farmerettes is touring the province. It tells the remarkable story of more than 40,000 teenage girls who volunteered to bring in crops on Ontario farms. With so many men enlisted to fight, there was a labor shortage that needed to be addressed. Here's a clip from that film.
These are the areas where the farm health problem is most acute in this country. Without dew, the crops will rot on the ground.
That was Alex McLaren, the director of the Ontario Farm Service Force in 1943. He needed thousands of teenage girls to work in the fields, bringing in the harvest. These girls were known as Farmerettes. Betty Lou Clark, or Betty Lou Denton as she was known at the time, was an Ontario Farmerette. We reached her earlier at her home in Guelph.
How do you do on this lovely day?
Thank you so much for joining us. Quite the documentary. I had a chance to check it out, and it had me wondering, why did you want to become a farmerette?
Well, actually, when I was 16 in 1945, I was the daughter of a very efficient mother who wanted to make sure that while her husband was overseas, her daughter would be in pristine, pure condition when he got back. And so I was always having to explain to my mother where I was going, when I was coming back, who I was with, etc. So when I heard that we could be a farmerette and to go away from home, I thought, oh, good, I'll get away from my mother. And also, I got out of my chemistry exam because we were forgiven our final exams, provided our marks were high enough. And so it was a combination of freedom from my mother and getting out of my chemistry exam and going off on a new adventure. That's what attracted me. It was not patriotism in a 16-year-old.
That's so interesting. Getting out of a chemistry exam and wanting to get away from your mother allowed you to make quite the impact during World War II. And was your mother okay with the fact that you wanted to do this?
Well, certainly my mother gave permission, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to go. There were 4 of us actually from Sault Ste. Marie that went that year, and the previous year there had been some girls from the Sioux, and they had said they had a good time and appreciated the adventure, so therefore we were attracted as well. And because there were 3 other girls plus myself that were going, my mother felt that it was a group effort and the other parents had given permission, so she went along with it as well. When she knew that there was a camp mother where we went, there was supervision, and therefore it was a safe environment for me to go to.
And to put this into context for our listeners, you went from Sault Ste. Marie all the way to St. Catharines. What was that trip like?
Well, we went down by train, and we thought we would all 4 be together for the summer on this adventure. But once we got to the St. Catharines area, I was sent to Camp Gregory, and I don't know where the other 3 went, but we all went separate ways, and so I was the only one from the Sioux that was at Camp Gregory that year.
What went through your mind as you were separated from the rest of your pack?
Well, I was disappointed, but also, when you're 16 and you're told this is where you're going, you just willingly go because you figure, well, do I have any options? Here I am on my own, and I'm being told to go in such and such a direction, so you go.
So you go that direction, and you end up on this farm. Describe the farm for us and the work that you were doing.
Well, actually, when you go to Camp Gregory. That is where the cookhouse is, where your tent is, and your the beds and so on. So this is where you're going to live for the next 4 or 5 months. And so then the farmer would come and get us at 7:30 in the morning with his truck or his tractor and trailer. And off we would go to his farm, and we would work there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night.
And I saw in the documentary that some of the farmers were somewhat skeptical about getting some of this support, not knowing what they were going to get. What was that relationship like for you with the farmer that you were working for?
Yes, well, actually, and I don't blame them because we were only 16 years old. We were not farm-oriented at all. So I can appreciate that they would be, apprehensive. But once we worked for the farmers and he saw with all our energy and enthusiasm and camaraderie, it just meant that we won them over virtually because we were producing what they needed to have produced, which is food.
And Betty Lou, how hard was the work?
Oh, the first couple of days were terrible because we were doing asparagus. And you sat at the end of this asparagus field with the farmer telling you what to do. And off you went, working 5 of us abroad. Each had a row to cut asparagus. And it went right over to the horizon. I mean, it was a huge long, and you were back-breaking all the way along the row and cutting the asparagus as you went. And the funny thing is, because we were city girls, we didn't realize that the next morning we would be at the same position, at the same asparagus field, doing the same job because asparagus grows overnight. So, it was, but our muscles became accustomed. After a couple of days, we became quite strengthened with the repetitive work.
Has that changed your relationship with asparagus at all over time?
Yes, because when my husband and I bought a country property, one of the first things I put into the garden was asparagus, because you plant it deeply, you plant the root very deeply, and it's the first crop that you get from your garden in the spring. And it comes up every year, so it's not like you have to replant it like carrots. So asparagus was it was a good friend throughout my life.
It definitely sounds like it, Betty Lou. But also that whole dynamic that you mentioned about being a city girl and being put in a farming environment, I find super interesting. And I'm wondering, considering the fact that you were doing the same work over and over again, did you ever think about quitting?
Oh, no, because you had friendships that were blossoming with these other girls. We all got along extremely well. I guess it was sort of, we recognized democracy in its entirety, because we all did together, we worked together, and we worked willingly together, and we were busy, so it wasn't as if we were idle and being gossipy. We didn't have time for any of that. It was hard physical work.
That sense of friendship really comes through in the film, and I'm wondering, how did things change once the war ended?
Well, the Farmerettes were continuing from 1939, I guess, or 40, the beginning of the war, and because the men who were normally doing the harvesting of the crops, they didn't come back from the war immediately. Some of them were not well enough, some of them had died, and some of them, when they came back, they wanted to go back and finish their schooling. So the program actually lasted until 1952 for that reason. So after the war, my dad had come back from overseas. He was with the RCMP, and he came back, and although he had been stationed in Sault Ste. Marie, he then was assigned to go to Toronto, I guess for an update. After 5.5 years at the war, he needed to be updated with his police investigations and so on. So we went to Toronto for the following year. So I finished my grade 13, actually, in Toronto. Some girls did go back repeatedly. One girl I know in particular, she went back 3 times, and the reason was, of course, she eventually married the farmer's son. So that was her motivation.
Wow. Wow. But, it is a part of our history, Betty Lou, that was somewhat forgotten, but now it's being highlighted in this film that we've been talking about over the last 10 minutes. And I'm wondering, what's it been like for you to see this film and talk to people about your experience as a farmerette?
Well, quite frankly, it's surprising because it was a forgotten piece of, and it's like so many incidents in your life. You sort of live through them, and then you get on to the next adventure. So with me, it was finishing my schooling as well, and so no, it was quite a surprise when I read somewhere online that Bonnie Sitter had written a book. And it was about farmerettes. I thought, oh my goodness, I was a farmerette. We've been friends ever since. It's been quite an adventure, as I say, not only the one of being a farmerette, but seeing it being publicized and remembered.
Well, it's a wonderful film, Betty Lou, and I'm really happy that we were able to get you on Fresh Air to share your experience with us. Thank you so much for joining us here on Fresh Air.
It was a pleasure.